arch Odeon. Movie premieres were planned for New York and Los Angeles, with another one squeezed between them at the last minute for Washington, D.C. Success was a foregone conclusion. Then the reviews started arriving. Far from the Madding Crowd bombed. Despite its lush visual beauty and fine acting, the film was too modern to feel authentic, yet too traditional to feel youthful, and Christie's curiously underwritten character careened from headstrong independent woman to swooning fool for love, a modern material girl trapped in a 19th century soap opera. The New York Times chief film critic Bosley Crowther, usually a sucker for sincere classical epics, mournfully branded it sluggish, indecisive, and banal. John Schlesinger, who thought he was coming to America for a coronation, instead found a wake. At the New York premiere, he could sense members of the audience slipping into a coma. There was utter silence at the end. It was frightfully slow, he would later admit. We were too much in awe of Thomas Hardy. A lavish premiere party had been planned for after the screening at the Grand Ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. When John walked in, he noticed there were only 3 full tables. The handful of intrepid guests applauded wanly. It was an absolute disaster, he recalled. Even his parents slipped out early. By the time he awoke the next morning, the Washington premiere had been canceled. Instead, he flew directly to the West Coast, escorted by the head of publicity for MGM. The man asked gingerly what John was planning for the future, then offered a piece of advice. Be very careful what you do next. You can't afford to make something which is really not right for you. Despite his sudden belly flop as a big-time director, John Schlesinger had no intention of doing anything other than what he thought was right for him. And what was right for him, he had decided, was to make a film out of a novel that was so bleak, troubling, and sexually raw that no ordinary film studio would go near it. Midnight Cowboy, written by James Leo Herlihy and published in 1965, tells the story of Joe Buck, a handsome but not overly bright dishwasher from Texas who buys himself a cowboy outfit and hops a bus to New York City to seek his fortune by becoming a male hustler selling sexual favors to frustrated older women. Joe's business plan fails miserably, and he winds up squatting in a shabby and deserted apartment building with Ratso Rizzo, a disabled tubercular con man and petty thief. Ratso becomes Joe's host, pimp, advisor, and ultimately his friend. Joe ends up turning tricks with men in Times Square and savagely beats and robs one older customer to buy bus tickets to Florida for himself and his desperately sick friend, who wets his pants and dies just before the bus arrives in Miami. The book contains scenes of heterosexual and homosexual intercourse, sadomasochism, fellatio, gang rape, prostitution, and illegal drug use. Trapped inside the straitjacket of Hollywood's old production code system of censorship, under which even a husband and wife couldn't be seen sleeping together in the same bed and a toilet could never be shown, let alone flushed, Midnight Cowboy could not have been made just a few years earlier. But by 1968, the year after the disastrous release of Far from the Madding Crowd, the motion picture industry was in deep trouble. Ticket sales had been steadily falling for more than 2 decades, and most of the studios were sliding toward insolvency. The genres that had sustained Hollywood during its long golden age, westerns, musicals, romantic comedies, biblical and historical epics, had grown stale and predictable, and many of the highly paid stars and filmmakers who worked in them had lost the magical power to attract increasingly younger audiences. In a time of political upheaval and changing social mores, Hollywood seemed less relevant than ever. The studio heads, cognizant of their economic precariousness, had recently scrapped the old code and replaced it with a ratings system designed to allow for more adult stories, themes, and language. Not everyone embraced the new system. Church groups, parental activists, and local politicians in small-town America, the backbone of the movie-going public for generations, feared a loosening of moral standards and a threat to the well-being of children.